Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
I could get used to this. Leafs win again in a pretty good game against the Florida Panthers. 4-1, winning this one in Florida. Back-to-back impressive wins by this Leafs team that is starting to look a lot more like themselves. Welcome in, everyone, to Game Over Toronto, where we actually, for a change, are happy the last two games. This is so nice, isn't it? This is so much nicer than all of October, all of November. We were just down in the dumps. We were miserable. Even when they won, we didn't feel good about it. And now to start December, I guess it was the end of November and the start of December here, back-to-back, nice, clean, efficient wins by the Maple Leafs. So welcome in, everyone. My name is Zach Payne. I'll be your host for this evening's program. If you're new here, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Game Over Toronto. It takes 2 seconds. It helps us grow. And follow the Game Over Network on social media as well. For those of you who are new here, then, well, welcome. And the way we run this show is in this first segment, we're going to break down the game, what happened in this one. Second period, we're going to get into a bigger story. The third period, we're going to get into a smaller story. And fourth period, Q&A. But for those of you who know me and have been here before, the regulars that I see some in the chat already, you know that this is an interactive show that I run throughout. That's why we do it live, is so we can talk with you guys. So by all means, please drop all of your comments on this game in the chat, and we'll get to it. So Matthew checking in saying Leafs win a good one. I don't care if it's a false hope game. It was just fun to watch. People say all the time that the regular season doesn't matter, but I am not here just for a cup. I like to watch my favorite team play, so the regular season is 82 times that I get to watch them. Please keep making them fun. I could not agree more. Look, this is what we do. We watch the games to be entertained, right? And if it was 82 games of misery, we wouldn't watch all 82. I mean, some of us would. We're sickos. But the point is to have fun. And so when the Leafs win, it's great. And also, we want the games to be entertaining. And the Leafs have done a much better job at actually generating, quality chances and doing things with the puck in the last couple of games. So that's been really refreshing to see as well. Still can't see how Matthews thinks he is getting paid the same or more on his next contract. I can, because the salary cap is going to be way higher. So his percentage of the cap might go down, but he's going to get a raise, because even if it's a small one, that's just how it works. Luke checking in saying petition to end the 5-forward power play. Granted. Obviously, they should pull the goalie and have a 6-forward power play. It's the only thing that makes sense. I think the only thing that makes sense is not taking power plays, declining power plays at this point. We'll have to talk about that a little bit later. Matthew saying one of the issues we've had all season is that the forwards don't know what to do on D, and the 5-man power play just shows that more. Yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about it all. The Pens game wasn't as good of a game for the Leafs. It was a terrible game for the Pens. Yeah, we talked about this on Saturday, where that game, the Penguins actually did play perfectly fine. Hildeby stood on his head, and the Leafs just scored every single chance they got, but it was a low-stress win, which I will take. There's way too much pressure by the Pens. Yeah, Dennis Hildeby played out of his mind, and in this one, Joseph Woll played a very good game as well, although I will say in this one, the Leafs looked a lot more Leafy, a lot more like the Leafs we saw last year. They actually were controlling a good amount of possession. They were getting good quality chances. They actually looked like a competent hockey team for once, which was super refreshing to see. So without further ado, let's go ahead and recap this game. So early on in this one, Joseph Woll makes a couple of huge saves on... was it Balsers, I believe? The first one, big save. Second one, he gets a piece of. It trickles to the goal line. Jake McCabe helps his goalie out by sweeping that one off the goal line. I noted in the first 5 minutes of this one, the Leafs were chasing a lot. They were really struggling on the breakouts, and they were really struggling to turn defensive zone recoveries into clean exits. This is their biggest Achilles heel, and I have talked about that at length for years at this point, so we don't need to harp on that. The Leafs were struggling with the breakouts, but it doesn't matter, because for the third straight game, the Maple Leafs score on their first shot of the game. Very random trend. The third line out there again, and you bet we're going to talk about them a lot later. But it gets back to the point. Troy Stecher, who has been, oh my lord, such a nice addition. I remember when he went on waivers, and I was like, I would love Troy Stecher. Just a third pair right-handed defenseman that can make a pass. What a great idea. And the Leafs bring him in. He's now playing on the second pair due to the injuries. He was playing with Jake McCabe. That pair, super solid in this one. Troy Stecher throws it on. I thought it got deflected by Nick Waugh, and I don't they still haven't adjusted that, I don't believe. So yeah, it goes down as Troy Stecher's first as a Leaf, first of the season. Great to see from Troy Stecher on a third line shift. That third line once again buzzing in this one, and it didn't stop. Short while later, starting with a defensive zone draw, the Leafs win the faceoff, flick it out into the neutral zone, and Joshua hunts it down. He forces a turnover. Bobby McMahon gets it. He feeds Joshua in front of the net, and Joshua, nice hands in tight, buries it on Sergei Bobrovsky and makes it 2-0. The third line, 2 goals that they were on the ice for in the first period. Absolutely fantastic. That line is just absolutely fantastic. Dakota Joshua has, oh my Lord, ever since coming back from being a healthy scratch, has looked unbelievable, and I'm so relieved because this is the player that I thought we were going to be getting. Maybe not this productive, but in terms of the way he looks on the ice, what he's doing, going to the net, causing havoc, hitting people like with impact, not just like brushing up against them, actually hitting them and going to the net and burying things. This is absolutely what we want to see. Bobby McMahon, also playmaker Bobby, has randomly come out in the last couple of games, so good to see that as well. So 2-0 Leafs. After that goal, Kunin tries to jump Nick Robertson off the faceoff. That was really weird, and it was really funny, so I noted it down. And then the second line had a nice shift with some good possession and cycling in the offensive zone. Not as much danger, but they were doing a good job controlling possession. I thought Cowan and Nylander were doing a good job of cycling around the offensive zone. Tavares did have a chance in front, but Bobrovsky was able to stop it. Florida takes a penalty, and then this is where we get to the power play. The power play, the top unit cycles around the outside, but they don't get a whole lot of danger. Actually, they don't get any danger. Second unit comes on. They get 2 shots technically, but they weren't particularly dangerous. One was Max Domi, which was just like a rush shot, like as he entered the zone. Another one I think was OEL, who just took a shot. Bobrovsky easily saved both of those, and the Leafs don't get anything going on the power play. Off of a faceoff, Greer had a chance in front where he just outmuscles Stecher. That is the one downside of Stecher, is he's not a very physical defenseman. He gets outworked in front, but Joseph Woll stands his ground, keeps the puck out of the net. And I noted at the end of the first period, the Leafs, the first 5 minutes of that first period were horrible. And then aside from that, the Leafs were mostly good. I was surprised at how much Florida controlled possession the whole period. I wonder how much of that was slanted from the first 5 minutes. But overall, I felt pretty good about the first period. But obviously, the goals probably help with that. That being said, the second period was one of the best periods the Leafs have played under Berube, period. They genuinely, like, I got to pull up the stats here because it felt, I actually didn't fact check this, but the second period felt like a dominant Leafs period for once. And yes, it was. So the Leafs in the second period, actually, I'll bring this up in a minute. I'll bring that up in a minute. So early on, Matt Nyes he attempts a weird like power toe drag where he basically tries to use his frame to box out Jones and go back into him and then drag it around Bobrovsky. Doesn't quite work, but it was a crazy attempt, and I respect it. Matthews with a shot in transition that Bobrovsky turned away. And then Panthers had a 2-on-1 chance. It was Marchand and someone. And Riley comes back to make it a 2-on-2 and break up the pass, although the Riley poke check did end up being a pretty wicked shot that Joseph Woll had to turn away. But nonetheless, the Leafs escape that. Tavares with a rebound chance in front that I think Bobrovsky got a piece of. Incredible save by Bobrovsky if it was. If it got knocked away, incredible play by the defenseman. I didn't quite see a good look at that one. But Tavares turned away in tight. Third line had another great shift, just buzzing in the offensive zone. The third line was so good once again. The Leafs really got carried by their depth in this one. Woll had a nice poke check in tight to prevent Kunin from getting a chance on kind of like a little breakaway. Not breakaway, but like he was alone in front and Joseph Woll had to come out of the crease a little bit, make a nice poke check to keep the danger away. Matthews with a breakaway opportunity. He tries to outweight Bob, and he runs out of space, hits the side of the net, and I'm not going to lie. I was watching that breakaway and I was like, 2 years ago, that is automatic. 2 years ago, that's automatic in the back of the net. But Matthews, I don't know if Bobrovsky threatening the poke checks like spooked him on this play, but Matthews just didn't really, it didn't seem like he had a good plan on that little breakaway chance. Regardless, it doesn't go in and it remains 2-0. Lawton draws a holding call in transition. I believe it was against Sam Bennett. And this is where the power play issues really rear their head. The 5-forward unit with just the worst possible rep. The Panthers get a 2-on-1. They get a chance, and they get a 2-on-1 chance. Cowan comes back to prevent the 2-on-1, but then in the corner, 2 Panthers outwork 3 Leafs. Nyes comes back into the fray, and 4 Leafs are unable to prevent the pass in front to Reinhart. They don't even try to cover Reinhart in front. He's left all alone, and he buries a shorthanded goal. A truly pathetic effort by the top unit, and it gets Florida back in the game off of just carelessness, honestly, by the top unit. It was horrible to watch, and it's an easy shorthanded goal. Shortly after the power play ended, Joseph Woll forced to make a big save off of a failed breakout. He came way out of the net and aggressively played that, makes a nice shoulder save. He also had to make a glove save in transition on Greer, I believe, after OEL gave up the outside. He played way too aggressively inside. Greer burns him to the outside and he gets a shot attempt, but it was stopped by Woll. At the end of the second period, in the game, the shot attempts were dead even and the shots were dead even. But I know I didn't say that the Leafs had a ton of quality, but the Leafs really tilted the ice in the second period, and I want to emphasize that. 65% of the shot attempts for the Leafs in that period. They had 8 high-danger chances to the Panthers, 2 at 5-on-5, 1.4 expected goals to 0.48, 74.5%. One of the best period, actually, honestly, one of the best periods the Leafs played under Berube, and it actually got better in the third period, funny enough. So going into the third period, it's 2-1 at this point. Tavares has an early chance off of a turnover, but Bobrovsky is able to turn it away. And then Dakota Joshua gets a very interesting penalty where Samoskevich basically goes up behind him, jumps on him like a backpack, and then falls off and takes his own helmet off. And the refs call interference. It was a truly horrible call by the officials. Absolute bogus. Dakota Joshua penalized for doing nothing. He let Samoskevich jump on his back. I guess that is a bit of a problem, but absolutely horrible by the officials. It gives the Panthers a power play. Luckily, they didn't do anything on it. Actually, the Leafs got the best chance where on a 2-on-1, Matthews with Nick Waugh feeds Waugh in front, and I thought he buried this. Bobrovsky makes an incredible sprawling save, moving to his right to keep it 2-1. And a short while after that, Bobby McMahon has a clean breakaway where he burns past Forsling. Bobrovsky once again makes a big save. And then a 2-on-1 shortly after that, Domi with Matt Nyes. Domi decides to rip it, which I love to see. Bobrovsky turns him away with the glove. The Leafs were getting a plethora of chances. They were just unable to solve Bobrovsky until on a dump in, Nick Robertson forces Forsling to just kind of put a very weak whack up the boards. It goes to Steven Lorentz. He throws it in front where Scott Lawton is just creating havoc. The puck's bouncing around. Lawton's able to find it, and he buries his first point of the year, his first goal of the year, and it was a huge one to give the Leafs a 3-1 lead. That was essentially the clincher. The Panthers did not have any offensive juice in this one, especially at 5-on-5. The Leafs were doing a fantastic job at shutting them down especially in the back 2 periods of this game. And right after that goal, third line again follows it up with just a monster cycle shift, killing time and getting chances. The third line, once again, fantastic. This was a game that the Leafs were powered by their depth. The top 2 lines had some chances, but the bottom 2 lines were fantastic for the most part in this one. And that has the Leafs still up 3-1. Joshua draws a call with an effort play on a board battle in the defensive zone. The Leafs on that power play, admittedly, don't really try to do anything. They're just killing time. The Panthers are in desperation mode at this point. After that penalty, they pull the goalie. It's 6-on-5, and Matthews chips it up the ice to Tavares, who buries the empty netter to get us to our final score of 4-1. And I told you about the stats in the second period. In the third period, 15 minutes 11 seconds at 5-on-5. The Leafs, 54% shot attempts. Okay, that's not bad, but 85% of the high danger chances and 89% of the expected goals. The Florida Panthers in the third period, a period in which they were losing just 0.1 expected goals for in the third period, 5-on-5 for the Panthers. Dominant defensive performance in the second and third by the Toronto Maple Leafs. And that gets us to our final score of 4-1. Joseph Woll, another very solid game. I think he had like a .960 save percentage in this one. The Leafs are looking pretty good in the last week and a bit here. They're starting to dial in defensively a lot more. Offense is a bit hit or miss, but the last two games, they've been hitting a lot more than they've not. So very clean effort by the Toronto Maple Leafs. Looks a lot more like the team that we saw last year, and that is really refreshing to see. Catching up on the chat here, Matthew saying the third line looked good. They're getting pressure. They absolutely were. They were fantastic in this one. Stetcher fitting in well. Yes, he was. I didn't notice Myers at all, which is great for him this season. And the fact that it was the Myers-Benoit pair that in October and November, remember how bad the Benoit-Myers pair was at times, and it was unusable. And the fact that we didn't notice them in this one, absolutely fantastic. Luke saying, maybe the whole problem has been injuries. Thank God nobody gets injured in the playoffs. Well, that might be oversimplifying things a little bit, but injuries don't count in the playoffs. They're just deferred until the offseason. That's factual, actually. Everyone just plays through everything. Panthers look tired, or did the Leafs just look energized? And did the Leafs just outwork them? Patrick saying, big W, best win of the season. Yeah, and it's so funny that this is like this. I absolutely agree. Best win of the season, and the last game was a 7-2 win. And we're sitting here being like, this was the best win of the season. This was definitely the most complete effort of the season. Even though the scoreboard looked better against the Penguins, this is the best the Leafs have looked start to finish in a game, honestly. Like, okay, maybe not start it. The first 5 minutes were bad. But aside from that, the back 55 minutes were very good outside of the power play, which we will talk about in a little bit. The power play sucks. But 5-on-5, the Leafs look good again, which is nice to see. It's a huge sigh of relief for me personally. So with that said, I'm going to turn us over to our second segment. As just a reminder, hit like and hit subscribe if you're new to Game Over Toronto. It takes 2 seconds. It helps the channel grow. You can follow the Game Over Network on social media platforms anywhere, any one of them. Doesn't really matter. And you can follow me at Zach Payne 41 as well. Be sure to also go check out the main Game Over Network channel. We are going to have some trivia hosted by Andrew Berkshire tomorrow at noon Eastern, I believe. We are going to have a weekly trivia going on the main Game Over Network channel, sponsored by Spark. So be sure to go over there. I think in the month of December, we're doing a World Junior themed trivia every week. Don't quote me on that, though. Don't quote me. But if you're up for some trivia, we have prizes. So go subscribe to the main Game Over Network channel. Go check that out. Okay. Second period here, we have to talk about the power play once again because, oh my lord, it is so bad. But first, Patrick saying, Lawton goal was a beauty. He out-hustled everyone. Absolutely. It was good to, and it's great to see these effort goals that we've been getting the last couple of games. The third line, just the bottom six, the goals that the bottom six have scored in the last 2 games, the Joshua goal last game, go to the net, get a rebound. The McMahon goal, go to the net, get a deflection. The Robertson goal last game, get a steal, snipe it in alone after getting a steal in the offensive zone. And then this game, Joshua, hustle through the neutral zone, earn yourself a chance in front, bury. Scott Lawton, go to the net, muck things up, get a rebound, bury. It has been just effort, and hustle. Great hands in front as well by the bottom 6 was just fantastic in this one. This is probably the best the bottom 6 has looked. The best this third line has looked is the last 2 games. They've been unbelievable. Even for as much as we say that the Penguins, like the Saturday game against the Penguins, wasn't as good as the scoreboard indicated, the third line absolutely was. And this is back-to-back dominant games by the third line. And we love to see it. We love to see it. Another game with an almost early goal against. Yep, similar to the game against Washington. We don't talk about that, though. We only talk about the ones that go in. Third game in a row with 1 goal. 1 shot, 1 goal is awesome. And it's funny because you have the game against Washington. What is that off of? A screen in front. You go to the net. You create havoc. Throw the puck on net. Good things happen. On Saturday against Pittsburgh. What was the first goal Saturday against Pittsburgh? Was that McMahon? No. What was the first goal against Pittsburgh? Damn it, now I have to look. This is going to bother me. Hold on. OCD moment. It was, Ekman Larsson, gets the puck. He goes to the front of the net and gets a good shot in tight. Good things happen when you go towards the net. And then this game, again, go to the net. Good things happen. You create a screen and Bob doesn't see the shot from Stetcher. The Leafs are just working. They're working. They're hustling. For as much as I push back against Berube's, like, just dig in, I mean, they have dug in, and it's leading to better results. So he's at least partially right. I still have gripes with his style of play, but I can't argue with the fact that the Leafs are getting rewarded for just battling harder, and that is something that is repeatable. Effort is a repeatable result for the Leafs. So, I couldn't type it fast enough. OEL has been the best Leaf the last 2 weeks, and the stats can back it up. I might go one step further. I mean, OEL's been the best defenseman this season. I've had my gripes with him at times this season, but offensively, he's been unbelievable. Yeah, he has some moments defensively, but everyone has their moments defensively. OEL's been the Leafs' best defenseman by far. McCabe tries, but he's been buried with some horrible assignments at times, and he was fighting the puck early in the season. OEL has been very good this season, and he's been one of the best Leafs, period. In terms of consistency this season, he's been great. Okay, speaking of OEL, the power play. For the love of God, end the 5-forward power play. They cannot do it. They can't do it. They don't have the personnel to do it. We talked about it, was it Saturday we talked about it? The 5-forward unit was something that they were uniquely able to do last season because Mitch Marner is basically a defenseman on the power play. Like, he is uniquely equipped to run from the point and be defensively responsible. The Leafs don't have anyone that fits that skill set because not a lot of players do in general. So you can't run the 5-forward unit. That being said, a power play with Matt Nyes, Austin Matthews, John Tavares, and William Nylander should not be this horrible. Obviously, you got to get Cowan out of there. It's not because anything Cowan did wrong. It's just because you have to have a defenseman out there, and it needs to be OEL. He's the only defenseman that has a blend of being able to facilitate and also have a shot and a shooting threat. He can filter that shot through. He has a good snapshot that he can get through bodies. He also has a decent slap shot. Get OEL on the power play consistently. None of this like one game sample size. Get him on the power play, get him there consistently, and let's giddy up and go. The Leafs, the power play, it's running into the same rut that it always runs into with these skill guys. They're just sticking to the outside too much. We need more direct action. We need more bodies at the net. We need more shot attempts in general. The Leafs have got to push the puck towards the net more. Get OEL out there. Get some Tavares deflections. Get some nice rebounds in front. And just get the puck to the net. More direct action. It's the number one thing, and this is actually an area I do agree with Berube on, is the power play just never has enough direct action. I'm very curious, actually, to see what Berube has to say about the power play after this game. It just is untenable at this point. It's untenable. We don't need a super loaded power play 1, move Cowan to power play 2, or send Nyes to power play 2. I would go further, actually. If you don't want a super loaded power play 1, split the units. Put Matthews and Nyes on the top unit, put Tavares and Nylander on the second. And let's do that. Because the top unit has not been working at all. Bobby McMahon on what this win means. That's a big one. Obviously, there's a bit of history. Okay, yeah, no, the quotes are just starting to come out. I'm very curious to see what Berube says, though. So, yeah, the power play has been untenable. I don't know what the solution is. Whether that's splitting the units and just hoping for the internal competition to win out, or whether that's just having the big guys shoot the puck more. I don't know, but I can see that split of those 4. Okay, here's my solution. Let's run top unit. I'll say Riley. Okay, when I say top unit, I mean first unit, but like of 2, like they're evenly split. Riley, Matthews, Nyes, Robertson, Domi. And the reasoning for that is we're going to have Matthews on the left flank where he can curl and drag. We're going to have Robertson as the bumper, like in the middle. We're going to have Domi on the far side. We're going to have Riley at the point. We're going to have Nyes in front. And the reason for that is Matthews, his curl and drag, he still has a wicked release. I want Robertson in the bumper so he can get these short little one-timers when the defense zeroes in on Matthews. I want Domi on the other flank because him and Matthews have chemistry. You keep the top line all together. And then Domi is also a very good passer as well. Very good playmaker. He can hit Nye's backdoor. He can hit Robertson for deflections in the slot as well. And Riley, just because I want Matthews pumping as many shots on goal as possible, so I don't need another shooting threat. You can have Riley fire the occasional wrister, but it's really just getting the puck to Matthews. Second unit then is Nylander, Tavares, Cowan, Joshua, and OEL. Nylander's going to be on the left flank for the one-timer. Tavares is going to be in the bumper. Joshua is going to be the net front. And Cowan's going to be the other flank. OEL at the point. Cowan has an underrated shot, and I need him to weaponize it a little bit more. But this is the Nylander unit. Give it to Nylander. Let him facilitate. OEL can be a shooting threat from the point. Tavares can tip it in the slot. Tavares can shoot from the bumper. Joshua, his only job is muck things up in front. Be annoying. Screen the goalie, get the occasional rebound, but really just be a nuisance in front there. And then Cowan can occasionally rip a one-timer as well. So that's my solution. Those would be my two units. You guys can let me know how you feel about that. But that's, I think, what I would try. Obviously, though, we're open to suggestion because we are in dire need of any kind of progress on the power play. So honestly, I'd be willing to listen to just about anything. Patrick saying the Leafs need to wait to sell Domi, get his value up, but at the same time, Domi does play better later in the season. This is the eternal conflict I have with Domi, is, I'll be frank, he sucks. I do not like Max Domi, period. However, I will also recognize two things. One, he is very good at holding the puck and facilitating in the offensive zone, and he finds Matthews. Honestly, you don't need to do more than that. You're going to get a whole bunch of points playing with him on the top line. Number two, he's a bit of a gamer. He is one of the few players on this roster that genuinely elevates in the playoffs. The other one is Matt Nyes, who ironically is his line mate. But Nyes and Domi legitimately elevate in the playoffs, and I would love to see them together in the playoffs. That would, if they make it, obviously. That would be a ton of fun, I think. So that my eternal struggle with Domi is he will play his best hockey in the playoffs and he'll play just good enough to justify keeping him. And then you get to the start of the next regular season and you remember, no, this guy sucks. And it's just a brutal cycle. Okay, so Matthews saying power play 1, Matthews, Nyes, Domi, Cowan, OEL. Power play 2, Tavares, Nylander, Robertson, Lawton, Riley. I don't hate Lawton there either. That's a good pull. I like that as well. Domi should be fourth line wing and Nicky Bobby should be on the top line. Robertson line 1. Yeah, Robertson worked well line 1. I will say it doesn't matter who's there. Neither of them is a long-term solution. The Leafs are probably going to have to get another winger at the deadline to play on the top line. I wouldn't mind getting a right-handed player because, oh my lord, the Leafs have like no righties in this lineup. But for now, put Robertson there. Robertson works there. It's a very strange thing. I never would have thought Robertson would work with Matthews, but he kind of has. He kind of does. So I'm perfectly fine putting Robertson there. The problem is if you take Domi off the top line, he's useless. So you're kind of stuck in this. Domi is either first line right wing or out of the lineup. I still want to exile him, but as long as he's here and if he's going to be in the lineup, you kind of have to put him on the first line because he doesn't work anywhere else. And at least if he's on the top line, he'll be passable. I would like a Jordan Eberle type or Marchessault, but hearing Marchessault doesn't want to leave a tax-free stay. Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing. He's also got multiple years left on that contract, and he's 35, I believe. So we don't need that many old guys. It's a shame that the Leafs burned all their assets last year because if the Leafs had assets, I would be all in on Alex Tuch. Unfortunately, the Leafs don't have those assets, so we'll have to wait and see what bargain bin options are available. Bettman is a crook. The Leafs pay for half the league. They do, actually. So it's one of those things where we could complain about that all day. We kind of just have to deal with the cards that we have. And the cards that we have say that the Leafs need a winger, and we have no assets to go get one, so it's going to be interesting to see how they attack it. Maybe they trade Brandon Carlo to go do that. I don't know. And then maybe you run McCabe, Tanev, Riley, OEL, Benoit, Stetcher. I don't know. Figure it out. I think short minutes will be good for him, and Lawton can draw the best out of him. I assume you're talking about Domi as a winger on the fourth line. That would be interesting. I still am I'm a big believer that Scott Lawton needs to be experimented with outside of just being a fourth line center. I think Scott Lawton should be used the way Alex Kerfoot was. Put him as the second line left winger. Put him as the first line right winger. I don't care. Try Lawton everywhere. This dude was a 40-point scorer consistently with Philadelphia. There's no way he's just an offensive black hole at this point. So try him up the lineup. Give him power play opportunities. Lawton has so much untapped potential, and they're just burying him on the fourth line with Lorentz and saying, figure it out. Be a decent fourth line center. He's so much more than that, and I wish the Leafs would use him properly. Canadian teams should have a luxury tax, or teams that make money in general. Bettman wants to keep the Canadian teams down to grow the game. I mean, yeah, again, the luxury tax idea is like I don't know why they don't do that. We don't have to go as aggressive as like the MLB where it's just free for all and you pay however much you're comfortable paying, but there should be some sort of like luxury tax system where if a team like the Leafs wants to go super all in and spend $200 million, sure, they can do that. They just have to pay a luxury tax, and that should be permitted. And the smaller markets would absolutely accept it because that would just mean that they get more revenue sharing. So it's the eternal conflict with the NHL because the NHL is run by dinosaurs and they're never going to accept a modern solution. The NHL should have had all Canadian teams playing on American Thanksgiving. That would have been so funny. That would have been so funny if they did that, but I won't complain because I admittedly I was watching football all day on American Thanksgiving, so I will not complain about there being no hockey that day. All right, with that being said, I'm going to turn us over to our third segment. This is going to be a nice and easy one. The Leafs defense has been improving as of late, and we are now in a spot we're going to look long term. Because if the Leafs defense improves and they are playing closer to what they were last season, that means they should be a playoff team, presumably, right? So I had this, I think it was Anthony Petrielli, I believe, was tweeting with someone about this. Okay, here we go. So this from Anthony Petrielli this morning. I still think a healthy Leafs team can climb up the standings and make the playoffs, but now Carlo is out long-term. Oh yeah, we learned Carlo's out long-term. No idea what's going on. No idea what the issue is. No idea what the timetable is. We just know he's going to be out a while. And who knows when Tanev or Stolar's return. It's bad timing with a difficult December schedule too. Maybe they can tread water and get healthy, but it's tough. But what I really wanted to focus on was this interaction he had with someone else. It was who said it's incredibly hard to see this team playing at a 600 plus point percentage to reach 95 points. Healthy or not, dug themselves into a big hole in my opinion, especially with so many games going to OT, too many teams to jump. However, as Anthony correctly points out, the Leafs played at a 659 point pace all of last season. Don't think it's a huge ask for a team when fully healthy to play at a 600 to 615 point pace for 3/4 of a season. And now, if we look at the NHL standings, the Leafs are certainly not, no one's out of it. We're still a quarter way into the season, or a third of the way into the season at this point. The Leafs are currently 6th in the Atlantic. They've played 26 games. They have 27 points. They sit 3 points behind Detroit for 5th. They are, 3 points also behind Boston for 2nd. There are 4 teams that are tied with 30 points in the Atlantic right now. They play Montreal on Saturday. They play Carolina upcoming here this week, but they just beat Florida to pass them. Florida's last in the Atlantic right now, by the way, which is absolutely hilarious. The Atlantic is so bad this year, like straight up bad. There's honestly no reason if the Leafs play 600 to 615 hockey in terms of point percentage, the Leafs honestly could be 2nd in the Atlantic. Like they should be 2nd or 3rd in the Atlantic, honestly. If they play like normal, like how we expect them to play, the Leafs should be able to jump up the standings fairly easily, especially this week. If Leaf fans are negative tomorrow, they have problems. And as Matthew correctly points out, the Leaf fans can find a way to be negative about a lot of things. Yeah, and honestly, that's why whenever the Leafs win a game like this, I always think it's so important to acknowledge, like, hey, the Leafs had a very good game tonight. They played super well. They've played really well defensively the last couple of games, and they're starting to look like the division champion Leafs we saw last season. There's always going to be things to be negative about. I could sit here right now and be like, oh, Matthews sucks, and Carlo's out long-term, and Tanev's out long-term, and this team's never going to win a Stanley Cup. But what's the point of that, man? What's the point? If I was to come on here and just sell nothing but despair every single week, every single game, this would be miserable. And the whole point, we're supposed to have hope. We're supposed to have optimism. We're supposed to enjoy this. We're supposed to enjoy the journey, enjoy the season, enjoy the process. So if people want to be negative every game, go for it. And look, I'm not above criticizing this team. I should clarify, and you guys know that. I criticize this team all the time. But there's not everything is so doom and gloom. There is still good with this team. That's why I said what I did at the beginning. Yeah, exactly, Matthew. And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. I really want to go through the Metro this year. I mean, I really want to go through the Metro every year. I'm so mad that it's such a shame because I will hold on to this belief wholeheartedly. The Leafs were the second best team in the East last year. If the Leafs had somehow beat Florida in the second round, they would have steamrolled Carolina in the third round. I firmly believe that because Carolina is not built for the playoffs. But they got stuck with Florida and they lost. So, lo and behold, they lost in embarrassing fashion. But if the Leafs had to go through the Metro in the playoffs, I think the Leafs would beat Carolina. New Jersey, same thing. It's a Sheldon Keefe team. You should be able to beat a soft New Jersey team. Washington might pose some problems because they have good goaltending and they have legitimate playoff players, playoff type of players, and no one else in the Metro is serious. Whereas in the Atlantic, Tampa Bay and Toronto are two peas in a pod. They will go back and forth. That is a legit 7-game series because the Leafs kind of have their number, but also Tampa's very good and very skilled. Boston, it's Boston. Montreal's not very serious in terms of playoff caliber, but Ottawa, they gave the Leafs a little bit of a hard time, but the Leafs also took a 3-0 series lead on them and then kind of choked and then figured it out. I don't know, man. There's probably 3 teams that I'm legitimately concerned about in the East if the Leafs get their you-know-what together. But Montreal small, not afraid of. Yeah, in a playoff series, I'm not afraid of Montreal either. In the regular season, I'm terrified of Montreal because they're fast and they're skilled. And in the regular season, they're a bad matchup. But in the playoffs, the Leafs would steamroll them. I firmly believe that. But at the same time, the Leafs also have to get to the playoffs. So, but yeah, the old Leaf fans are butthurt. It'd be fun to see the Leafs get in on a wild card spot and get the Devils of Carolina. Could you, you know what I want? And this is the sicko in me. Give me New Jersey in round 1 and let that series go 7 games. Sheldon Keefe versus the Leafs in game 7. The ultimate choker bowl. We're going to see who comes out of that. Who's the bigger choker? Who are the bigger chokers? The answer is still the Leafs. But I would love to see that matchup, and I would love to see how a physical Leafs team does against. I would actually really love to get a Montreal or a New Jersey or a Carolina. I would love to get a matchup against a super small skilled team and just see the Leafs bully them. There are going to be games in those series where, yeah, the Leafs are going to get outskilled and the other team will win. But it's the Florida equation, right? Or the Boston equation from back in the day. We're going to just beat you up to the point where by game 6 and 7, you've got nothing left. That's the game plan. That's the blueprint. So anyways, we are not here to preview playoff matchups because that's a long way away. We got to make the playoffs first. And the Leafs, like I said, are still 6th in the Atlantic, which is not great. So we still got to get out of this hole first. But playoff hockey is different. Absolutely. The Leafs, and this is something I have talked about on this show. The Leafs are not built for the regular season. They are so not built for October and November hockey. The longer the season goes on, the tighter the games get, the less open space there is, the better it's going to be for the Leafs. I think at some point like February, March, the Leafs are going to go on a real run. And I would love to see, honestly, I would love it if the Leafs were like 4th or 5th in the Atlantic through the new year, and then we get to like February and March, like the last 20 game sprint of the season, and the Leafs are basically playing at their most desperate for the last stretch of the season, and then we get to see the Leafs basically playing playoff hockey for 2 months before the playoffs. That would be the ideal situation. Like, obviously they're only 4 points out right now, and that, like, yeah. But I kind of want the Leafs to be middling through the next month and a bit of the season, and then have the heat turn up on them, have them play their best hockey when the game slows down to match their style of play. I think that is the best combination of getting yourself into the playoffs and putting yourself in a good spot matchup-wise, while also putting yourself in a good spot in terms of preparation for the playoffs. Because how many years have we seen the Leafs show up to the playoffs not prepared because they took the last 5 games off and they were coasting? I need this team going in hungry and determined. That's the best chance they have. With that being said, I'm now going to turn us over to our 4th and final segment. This is the part of the show where we invite your questions. So if you have any Leaf-specific questions or hockey questions in general, or honestly, doesn't even have to be hockey. If you have any questions, this is the time to ask. As always, a reminder to hit that like button, hit subscribe. It takes 2 seconds. It helps the channel grow. Go follow the Game Over Network on social media. And like I said, the main Game Over Network YouTube channel tomorrow, trivia, sponsored by Spark. It's going to be hosted by Andrew Berkshire. That's going to be a weekly thing, and throughout December we are going to have some World Junior related trivia. There are prizes, so make sure to go check that out. The main GameOverNetworkChannel.com, just the Game Over Network on YouTube. I want the Leafs to come in as a wildcard team like Florida team that beat the Boston Bruins in 7. Yeah, that is exactly what I want. That, like, the Panthers had like 92 points that year. That might be cutting it a little close, but I want them just playing hungry through the last stretch of the season. Do you think Carlo will be back this season? Yes. Do I think he will be back with the Leafs this season? I don't know. I think there's a real chance they trade him. Real chance. When he comes back, he needs to be better. Plain and simple. Like, if he comes back and he plays the same way he did in October, forget it. Go away. But if he comes back, if we can have like a Dakota Joshua moment with him where he kind of gets a talking to and is like, oh, I actually have to hit people. There's all kind of like, dude, if Brandon Carlo came out and played with the chip on his shoulder that Dakota Joshua's had the last couple of games, Brandon Carlo would be a legit top 4 defenseman again. And it would be amazing. It would be amazing. So I still have so much hope for Brandon Carlo. I just need him to play physical. He will be back at some point, but no idea when. Could not tell you. Thoughts on the Team Canada Olympic roster? Man, is Matthew Schaefer, that's his name, right? Hold on. That's his name, right? Yeah, Matthew Schaefer. Is he going to make it? Is he going to make it? Matthew Schaefer might make it. I kind of want... Hold on. We talked about this a little bit ago, but I want to see, is there an updated projection? Okay, this is from November 14th. This is from Bleacher Report, but I just want to see what they've got for defensemen. Do they have Schaefer making it? Okay, wait, this is a horrible article, a horribly formatted article. Let's look at this. Okay, this is from the Hockey Writers. Nope, this is the World Juniors. I just want to find a recent Team Canada projection. Okay, so this is from Sportsnet. This is from November 26th. This is last week. Okay, this is last week. These are the defensemen that these are the defensemen from the Four Nations last year. So Cale Makar, obviously he's going to be there. Devon Taves, obviously he's going to be there. Josh Morrissey, obviously he's going to be there. Shea Theodore, obviously he's going to be there. Drew Doughty should probably, well, he'll be at camp for sure. Travis Sanheim, Colton Parayko, Thomas Harley. Now, Matthew Schaefer, who I'm going to pull up his DB. He's had an unbelievable start to his career. He is 18 years old and has 19 points in 27 games and 8 goals. I'm not going to lie. So Makar and Taves is the top pair. Morrissey, Theodore are going to be there. I think Matthew Schaefer should be on Team Canada's third pair. You can put him with a defensive defenseman like Parayko or put him with Doughty, a veteran. I really think that Schaefer's going to make it. The other option is Jacob Chychrun, which would be interesting because Chychrun has like 10 goals already. But I think Matthew Schaefer is going to be there because I think Hockey Canada is going to be invested in getting this guy in the program, in the building with all of these other great skaters and having him learn and having him compete on the world stage because they're going to, like Schaefer and Makar are going to be leading this decor for the next 8 years. So the next 2 Olympics after this, it's going to be Makar and Schaefer. I think you got to get it. I think he's going to make the roster. As for forwards, I saw, so Patrick said Bedard, Celebrini, and Schaefer maybe. Is Bedard making a case? Bedard's absolutely making a case. If we look at the forwards, did I skip past the forwards? I probably did. Or is this just defense and goalies? Oh yeah, this is just defense and goalies. Does Sportsnet have a forwards article? I don't know if they did. I don't know if they do. But if we look at the forwards, we've talked about this before. I'll bring up the forwards because most of them will stay the same. So Mark Stone's going to be there. McDavid, obviously. Braden Point, obviously. Crosby, obviously. McKinnon, obviously. Reinhart, obviously. Marner, obviously. Hagel and Cirelli, probably going to be there. Celebrini, I think, has to be there. Bedard, I think, has to be there based on his work this season. I think you have to have both Celebrini and Bedard there. Schaefer will not be at this Olympics. He'll be at the next Nations Cup. I mean, he'll definitely go to the World Hockey Championships after the season. But if Bennett is healthy, he goes for me. I think Konechny and Jarvis are left out. Jarvis is interesting because Jarvis is so talented, but I would rather have Bedard than Jarvis. And because they fill, in terms of like size, they're similar size profiles. They're both righties. They're both offensive producers that are liabilities defensively. And I don't want 2 of those guys in the bottom 6. The thing I'll say about Bennett was incredibly valuable last season in the Four Nations because the Four Nations were NHL rules, meaning the physicality was up and there was fighting. At the Olympic stage, that won't fly. So I don't think Bennett will be in the Olympic roster just because his skill set isn't as valuable. And I think they're going to lean a little bit more into the talent side. That said, you can have one of Bennett or Tom Wilson. You can have one of them. You probably won't keep both. They'll be the extras, but I don't think they're going to have both. Does Tavares make the team? No. I don't think so. Unfortunately for him. Good for us because it means there'll be a chip on his shoulder, but I don't think he does. I think they would take Suzuki over him just because Suzuki's younger, and they want to get Suzuki in the building to be more of that like 2-way defensive solid center, like good at all the little things. Canada's too stacked. Yep, they are. Unfortunately, and they've got to get some of these younger guys in the building too. So I think if Tavares was 18 years old, sure, but he's an aging veteran, and they need to get some of the young guys in there because they need to develop the young guys on the world stage to lead the next generation. If everyone is healthy, what is your least playoff defense? I'm gonna, with the caveat that I'm hoping that Carlo will be better. It would probably be exactly what you would expect. Riley Carlo, McCabe Tanev as the shutdown pair, OEL Stetcher as the third pair, and then Benoit's the 7th at this point. And then if anyone gets hurt on the left side, you bring in Benoit. If anyone gets hurt, period, you bring in Benoit. If anyone gets hurt on the left, Benoit plays the left side. If anyone gets hurt on the right, you move OEL over to the right and play him there. Carlo will be back after the Olympics. Oh, did they say that? Or is that just a guess? By the way, let's see what Brube said. I haven't seen anything, actually. Troy Stetcher, I told Cowan and Robertson I was going to get one tonight, and I actually did. Problem is, I tell myself that every game. Troy Stetcher, he's such a low goofball. What a low goofball. It's a guess because they didn't rule Carlo out for the year. Fair. I was going to say, like, if the Leafs actually revealed a timeline, I would be so surprised. They don't tell us anything. I mean, Carlo could be back in 2 weeks. He could be back in 4 months. He could be done until the end of the year. I don't know. We don't know. We don't know what the injury is. We don't know what the surgery, what the procedure was. His career could be over. He could be back tomorrow, like in the building tomorrow skating. Like, we don't know. The Leafs don't tell us anything, so it's very frustrating. With that being said, I think that's where we're going to wrap this thing up. So thank you guys so much for being here and for interacting with me in the chat. As always, reminder to hit that like button, hit subscribe to Game Over Toronto. Takes 2 seconds, helps the channel grow. So thank you to all you guys for interacting with me in the chat. Great questions, great conversation as always. I will not be streaming on Thursday. I have a conflict, unfortunately. I'm sorry. I'll be back on Saturday. It'll be a crossover stream with Game Over Montreal, so make sure you tune in for that. And Matthew, I know you were one of the guys that was criticizing this last time. We will have it just be one channel so we can mix the chat so you can talk all of the smack you want with the Habs fans. So I'll be back on Saturday. Stay tuned for that and enjoy the Leafs game on Thursday against Carolina. Hopefully they can close this road trip out with a big win. And until then, my friends, have a good rest of your evening. Cheers.